What's going on YouTube? I'm your host Joss and welcome back to Top 10 Beyond the Screen. Make sure you're following us on social media for all the behind the scenes. Our links are down below. And stick around until the end of this video when I respond to some comments from my part 1 list. That's right, another list continues today because you guys loved hearing about all the ridiculous celebrity interviews that have happened over the years. So your wish is my command. Let's see what other interviews didn't go as well as planned with today's part 2 list of top 10 terrible interviews that destroyed a celebrity's career. Starting off our list at number 10 is Jesse Eisenberg. The actor has always been called socially awkward and has always shown this not so welcoming attitude when it comes to the press. One of his awkward and demeaning interviews went viral back in 2013 when he did an interview with Romina Puga from Univision about his new movie coming out called Now You See Me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the problem with the trick is that the thumbs don't look like an end of a finger.
You just have a fat thumb though.
No, my thumb's fine, thank you, but
Romina had a few notes written on her hands so that she could remember them during the interview, and he had no problem calling her out on them, saying that she can't remember a simple question and also told her that she is a horrible interviewer.
what did you write on your hand?
Nothing.
Well, I saw there was a lot of things. What was it?
A lot of things.
Are they questions?
No.
Are you secretly hiding questions for the interview? You're wondering what it's like to work with Morgan Freeman and you can't remember that?
His exact way of saying it was he asked her if she knew the comedian Carrot Top. She responded with, yes, horrible. And Jesse said, I quote, well, you are like the Carrot Top of interviewers. The interview awkwardly continued on where he continued to make comments about the interview being over soon and also said that if she was trying to find her way in a crowd, he wouldn't actually want to find her and that he'd rather be alone.
Do you know the comedian Carrot Top?
Yes, horrible.
Well, you were like the Carrot Top of interviewers.
Ooh.
Yeah. No, and it's a good thing. It's
I'm
a
gonna
good
go
thing.
cry now.
No, don't cry now. Cry after the interview's over.
Well, isn't he just a ray of sunshine? People haven't received his interviews very well and the majority of them can't get on board with his whole attitude and behavior. In at number 9 is Paris Hilton. This interview was more of a chance for her to have a comeback in her career, which was already destroyed, but she just kind of blew it. After her career started to fade out, we didn't really hear much from her until 2011 when she signed up for an interview with ABC, which was meant to give us a look into her life and what she's up to now. The interview took place at her home, which started out great. We got to see her home, her dogs, and she just seemed to be in good spirits. That was until the reporter, Dan Harris, began to question whether her celebrity status was running out and being taken over by her close friend, Kim Kardashian. He worded it as nicely as possible, but she just couldn't handle the thought of it. He brought up the fact that her show called The World According to Paris had received a low rating and asked if that upsets her. You could clearly tell that it does, but she responds simply by just saying no. She begins to talk to her publicist, who is standing off set, saying that she wants to be done with the interview. She ends up walking off, but her mic was still on and she told her publicist that she doesn't want any of this footage being used.
Do you ever worry about your moment having passed? You want to wrap up?
When I was curious about one thing going back to...
So, what do you guys think? Do you think she was acting like a diva by giving one-word answers and leaving? Tell me down in the comments. Next up at number 8 is John Mayer. Back in 2010, he did an interview with Playboy where he sparked a heated debate among his fans and people lost a lot of respect for him. His relationships with stars like Jessica Simpson have all been documented in the tabloids, but he dished on their relationship in a very strange and disrespectful way. When asked about his ex, Jessica, he started to speak about their sex life, saying that she was like crack cocaine to him. Sexually. He said he wanted to snort her and would sell his belongings even if she charged him $10,000 to sleep with her. He continues to share how many people he's been sleeping with since the breakup and says he also spends a lot of his mornings watching porn in bed. If the sex talk wasn't enough to set off his fans, his comments about race would. He said, I'm just very. And if you can't handle my very, then I'm a douchebag. That's why black people love me. He went on to say that he gets a hood pass and refers to them as the N-word. Immediately after his interview was published, it caused tons of controversy where he was called an asshat and became a trending topic, but not for the reasons that you really want to be trending. Sliding into number 7 is Tom Cruise. We've seen him lose his temper on a few different occasions, so it's not much of a surprise that he's wound up on this list. He made comments that people didn't appreciate, like the time he criticized Brooke Shields for taking antidepressants. She took them for postpartum depression, but since Tom is a Scientologist, he doesn't believe in those kinds of drugs or therapy. So, during an interview back in June 2005 with NBC's Today Show, the reporter Matt Lauer asked him about his criticism criticism, and he didn't like that it was brought up. The actor ended up calling him a glib and told him he doesn't know what he's talking about. In anger, he said, "You don't know the history of psychiatry. I do." He continued to discuss his Scientology beliefs, which causes enough controversy in itself, and said that because Lauer admitted to using psychiatric drugs in the past, he was actually advocating the use of Ritalin and that it's wrong.
I've never agreed with psychiatry, ever. Before I was a Scientologist, I never agreed with psychiatry. And then when I started studying the history of psychiatry, I started realizing more and more why I didn't agree with psychiatry.
His anger, defensive mechanism, and attitude isn't a shock really, but it just still isn't necessary. At number 6 is Joan Rivers. The woman is known to be a harsh critic when it comes to her time on Fashion Police, but is it harsh if it's true? That is the real debate. Some people appreciate her brutal honesty, while others think that it's just straight up rude, which is the main reason why she went into a rage and walked out in the middle of a CNN interview back in 2014. She was doing a live stream interview with CNN host Frederica Whitfield, who started off by joking around saying that her show Fashion Police was mean, and that was enough to trigger Rivers. Everything from that moment on just escalated very quickly. CNN asked her why she fights to end animal cruelty while she still wears fur, and her response was, "Are you wearing leather shoes? Then shut up."
The cover of your book, you're wearing a fur, and you knew that there would probably be animal rights activists.
You know, this whole interview is becoming a defensive interview.
No!
Are you wearing leather shoes?
Yeah,
shut up.
She then continued to go on a rant saying that the interview is turning into a defensive one, and she insults the lady one last time before storming off set. She said, "You are not the one to interview a person who does humor. Sorry," and rips off her earpiece before leaving.
And you do this, and you're mean, and you're that. You are not the one to interview a person who does humor. Sorry.
Are we serious?
However, she didn't turn off her microphone, and after leaving the set, they recorded her calling the host the C word. Her exit strategy wasn't thought out very well. How we do the list at number 5 is Jerry Seinfeld. Fans were shook when the hit TV series Seinfeld came to an end, and everyone was pointing the finger at Jerry, wondering what exactly happened. He didn't like that very much, and he lost his cool on Larry King back in 2007 when he asked him about it during an interview. He was live on CNN for the interview and was actually there to promote his new project, B-Movie. Larry ends up asking him if he cancelled the show or if the network cancelled him. A pretty standard question to ask since the show was around for so many years and was coming to an end all of a sudden. But rather than simply answering him, he got extremely offended and started to become a bit ignorant. He made it clear that he had 75 million viewers and that it was his choice to quit. Larry tries to move on from the question when he sees his response, but Jerry continues to interrupt him, even to a point where he can't cut to a commercial break when he is supposed to.
75 million viewers last episode.
What, you don't take it so bad.
Well, that's the big difference between being canceled and being number one.
Okay, I'm sorry.
He even says the famous line, "Do you know who I am?"
Do you know who I am?
Jewish guy, Brooklyn.
Yes.
Okay.
Fans responded to the interview saying that he overreacted and could have simply just answered the question gracefully. There was no point to prove. We clearly all know that your show was a success. Alright you guys, at number 4 we have Mel Gibson. Are you shocked? No, didn't think so. He's known for having anger issues, and the majority of them it has been well documented through audio recordings or videos, so it's not like I'm just assuming all of this. One of his interviews went viral back in 2010 when we got to see a piece of his angry side come out. He was doing a live stream interview with WGN News, and the reporter Dean Richards asked him about some incidents from his past, like his alcohol use and bad temper. 4 years prior to the interview, he was arrested and got a DUI, so he asked if he feels the public would receive him differently now. Mel was outraged by the question, which he showed by the expression on his face. He responded by saying, "That's almost 4 years ago, dude. I mean, I've moved on. I guess you haven't." He ends up continuing and says, "Let's move on, dude, come on." He doesn't say goodbye or anything as Dean ends the interview. He just gives a thumbs up and sips his coffee. And right after the interview ends, he calls Dean an not knowing that the video was still recording.
It's good to see you back in the saddle and doing what you do best. Thanks a lot for joining us, Mel. Take care.
Bye-bye.
In spot number 3 is Tracy Morgan. It's hard to forget about the interview he did in 2007 when he was clearly drunk on camera.
Ladies, my Mercedes, I'm the ooh child.
The reporter, Robert Holguin, seemed super uncomfortable and out of his element when dealing with him throughout the interview on ABC7. But he remained professional and was a good sport about it, laughing and making jokes with Tracy, who was completely out of control. Morgan took his shirt off, which ultimately ripped his microphone off, and began slapping his belly, calling it a loaf of bread, and said it was his mating call. Robert tried hard to keep the interview going and talking about his upcoming show, but Tracy was in his own little world. After the interview cut to commercial, you could hear Robert saying, "I am going to get fired." At number 2 on our list is Roseanne Barr. She had an incredibly successful career, but it crumbled after she tweeted out some racist comments. She lost everything, including her ABC sitcom called Roseanne. She tweeted out a comment where she compared Barack Obama's advisor, Valerie Jarrett, to a character from Planet of the Apes and linked her to a group called Muslim Brotherhood. During an interview with Inside, she spoke about the incident with a cigarette in hand and lost all control of her emotions and began to scream. Like literally scream. She went off the rails yelling, "I thought the was white." She continues to scream out different curse words and in between takes a puff from her cigarette, maybe in hopes to try and calm down, which clearly didn't work.
I thought the was white! Damn it!
This is her back? Seriously?
Throughout the interview, she looks totally out of it and at time asks the producer, "Are you filming?" The producer can't help but laugh at her erratic behavior and just keeps repeating himself, telling her that she's already explained this to them 300 times, but she just keeps going on about it, and not gracefully. Taking our number 1 spot is Michael Jackson. Over 10 years ago, he was charged on different allegations of child sexual abuse that were filed against him. A documentary about his life, including these charges, was released and showed an interview where he made inappropriate comments that left people stunned. When speaking about his own children, he admitted during an interview that he allowed their friends to come over and sleep in his bed with him. Ain't nothing normal about that. He explained that he doesn't see any problem with it because, I quote, "It's all very charming." The interviewer was baffled that he would be saying these things considering the allegations that were against him, but Michael stood firm on his beliefs and referred to the young children as his friends. He simply didn't see anything wrong with a grown man being friends with young children. After hearing these things come out of the singer's mouth himself, his reputation was never really the same after that. Alright guys, there's our part 2 list. Let me know all of your thoughts down in the comments below and hit that thumbs up button so that I know you enjoyed it. In the meantime, let's check out some comments from our part 1. Deanna says, "Haha, did you say erotic behavior instead of erratic at 2:57? That's funny." You know, that wouldn't really surprise me at this point, but now you guys get to see that I am just human. Chantel Kerr says, "Miles Teller is an a-hole in person." Really? Have you met him? Because I would love to hear that story. Margaret Newell says, "Is there more videos about their dumb interview?" Yes, we can only insert small clips from it, but you can actually find the full interviews online still. You just gotta Google it. Kevin Machaca says that you could probably do a top 10 favorite celebrity shoe brand and still make it enjoyable. Keep up the great work. I don't know about that one. I guess be careful what you wish for. Alright, we are at the end here. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss another video. If you want to keep watching more Beyond the Screen videos, just stay on this screen and you can click the icon right over here. It will pop up when I stop talking. I'm your host Joss and I will see you next time.